Welcome everybody to a mid-year check-in. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, we figured what better way than to check in the mid-year with the best TV shows of 2025. We're going to take a look at TV, movies, and possibly the most disappointing movies of the year throughout this week. We hope you tune into each and every one of those. I am joined by my friend here, Mr. Matthew Fox. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. TV always a little more exciting, probably the first half of the year, maybe than movies. Movies tend to get better at the end of the year. You get some of your bigger releases for awards, but TV, the Emmy cutoff is May 31st. So you get a lot of the primetime contenders right in a strong window in the spring. And I think we got that again this year.
Yeah, it's definitely been a whirlwind of a season for TV shows. There's some really good really good ones that have come out, and some really interesting ones, I guess you could say, at the same time. But some of the ones that we're looking at today, I'm excited to chat about because obviously they are our 10 favorite. Were there any TV shows that might not have made your top 10 that you would maybe like to recognize as we're getting ready to dive in here?
Yeah, so my toughest cut, one that had an up and down season for me, is Paradise on Hulu. I think you and I both liked it a lot. It had one episode in particular that I will probably keep in my top 10 episodes of the year by the time we get to the end. I was fascinated at the beginning. It had some weirdness in the middle, and then I thought it ended semi-strong. It was a close cut. I had it kind of in my top 10 all the way until we got to the end of June. And there was one that I had just recently finished that went up high that kind of displaced it out. I thought it was still a lot of fun. A lot more people got to see it because they also aired the season on ABC when they decided to pick it up. And it is returning, unlike some of the shows I do have in my top 10. So I'm excited about that, but just didn't quite make the cut for me.
Yeah, it's a show. I mean, obviously, we'll talk about it later. It doesn't make my cut, but it was one that I struggled a little bit because there's a few different shows that I like this year that I thought would make my list, but then as I started making my list, I'm like, I don't think I can put this above this or this or this. And like one of those shows is obviously Your Friends and Neighbors. I've been a big fan of that show. I think it's been a fantastic show. I really enjoyed it. The Four Seasons is another one. I feel like that
was Four Seasons. I have that right under Paradise. Those were the last two out when I finished a couple of shows this last week.
Yeah, and that's a big thing for me. And when I watch this, I'm trying to break down what deserves to be in this top 10. I went a little bit weird with some of my choices, and there's just a few of them that basically the only reason I quote unquote went weird is the fact that I really enjoy certain elements of certain shows, right? You know what I mean? Like it's there's some things that you love and some things you don't, and all those in between. But for me, like the TV shows have been strong this year, top heavy. But when it kind of comes down to it, it's like when you're making the top 10, you're like, I really want this to be like the be all end all.
Well, and I'm curious too, the Four Seasons, I really enjoyed it as a self-contained limited series. And then I went and watched the Alan Alda film, and I thought that, the 8-episode show was a lot better. And then they picked it up for a second season, and that left me trying to figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that second season. You know what I mean? So, all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start this off. I'm going to let Matthew Fox kick us off with his 10, 9, and 8 shows.
Yeah. So number 10 for me, another one from the early part of the year, and that is On Call, which was on Prime Video. This one was 8 episodes, each about a half an hour. You had a combination of body cam kind of footage and traditional footage. You were following a training officer going through training a new rookie cop, Long Beach Police Department. Caught me by surprise. They did it all as a single dump, and it was either the first or second week of the year. So it was really early on. I liked it a lot. It was at one point, it was number one on my list for a while. It did not get picked up for a second season. I'm a little bummed about that. But I'm going to enjoy that first season for what it was. Number 9 for me, an Apple TV Plus show, really enjoyed this comedy, and that is The Studio from Seth Rogen, starring Seth Rogen. Had a really creative hook, a lot of industry inside special guests that were really fun. Ron Howard, his episode where he's essentially playing himself was hilarious, but it also had some emotional moments. There's an episode 8, at the Golden Globes that really kind of tugs at your heart a little bit when you're following along. Some screwball comedy, great cast. Ike Barinholtz, Catherine Hahn, really enjoyed them. I liked what we got out of that show. That one's been picked up, so I'll be curious to see where that goes. And then another Prime Video show for me at number 8, and that is Bosch Legacy. This was the third and now final season. I have mentioned before on some different shows, I've been a fan of Bosch since it was back on the original series, which ran 7 seasons. It is so old, and so old and part of Amazon, that it was part of that original, when Amazon first started doing original content, they had pilot season where they would dump pilots of new shows out, and people got to fan vote and upvote what they wanted to see come to series. I actually watched the pilot of Bosch during one of those fan dumps of pilot season for Amazon. I was excited that they made it a show. I'm a huge fan of The Wire. And Eric Overmyer, who is the showrunner here, was a writer and worked on The Wire. These are based on the Michael Connelly novels. If you are a fan of Bosch, there's a picture that came out that showed Titus Welliver as Bosch with the cast of The Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix. So it looks like they are finally going to merge Michael Connelly's book series, and I could not be more excited. There's also a spinoff from Bosch called Ballard, which debuts July 9th. It has Maggie Q. She appeared in the final episode of Bosch Legacy. I think Bosch is going to pop up in that one. I will miss the show. Titus Welliver, an incredible performance over 10 seasons worth of shows last season, just as satisfying as the rest of them.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of Bosch, and I do like Michael Connelly's books, and I've been dying for the intertwining of The Lincoln Lawyer and Bosch, because if you know anything about the books per se, and I don't really know a whole lot about the books, I know a lot about the books based off of the shows that I've watched, that those those characters intertwine quite a bit. So, and if you ever watched, Bosch, and if you ever watched Lincoln Lawyer, just thinking about Manuel, was it Manuel Garcia Rufilo and Titus, just them sharing the screen together as these characters,
It's going to be magical.
It's going to be a beautiful thing, and I can't wait. I love the Lincoln Lawyer. I'm a huge fan of the Lincoln Lawyer too. So
I know, and that was on my top 10 list for last year. We haven't gotten a new season in 25 yet, but yeah, Michael Connelly. It makes me want to get the books.
yeah. So for me, again, making the cuts were kind of hard. There's a few shows, Bosch Legacy, I didn't catch yet. I really want to see that show. The couple of the other shows that he's talked about are a little bit higher on my list, I think. But for me, one of the shows that I was very, very impressed with was Daredevil Born Again. For me, I think that the original series is one of the best like Netflix original series that they created, just based off of the idea of, for years people kind of yearn for these hardcore, more mature rated characters to deliver in these performances. And of course, when they cut Netflix off, I guess you can say, and brought these characters to Disney Plus, everybody questioned whether the idea that they were going to be able to create the magic that you had within the Netflix series. And I felt like they did a great job at this. They didn't let anything off the hook. You know what I mean? They let the Punisher be the Punisher, which is one of the biggest highlights that we needed, because again, and that was one of the only reasons John Berthal returned, was based on the fact that they said that he was still allowed to play the Punisher the way that he wanted to. This cast is strong. You know what I mean? Charlie Cox is he's magical. I mean, I don't think he gets enough credit for the emotional depth that he brings to the character. I remember you and I talked about this when we were watching it, about how his performance just is really, really, really strong. You know what I mean? So I thought some of the tones of the show obviously played off to the eerie similarity of what the society is facing right now, which was interesting as well. But number 9 for me is a show. It's one of my favorite, and it's the most random show ever. I really love Adults. Adults is on FX. Matthew Fox is probably cringing from ear to ear in the insides right now based off of this. But for me, I loved Adults. I thought it was like a cheeky comedy. I always yearn for a 30-minute comedy that really would just make me laugh, that I can turn my brain off. It doesn't have to be the greatest thing in the world, but it was funny. It was kind of set in the modern day. I always give things bonus points being set in a beautiful city, which I mean, New York City is the easiest place in the world to shoot in. So that to me was kind of a no-brainer. So I'm a big fan of adults. That's why it comes in at number 9. Number 8 for me is Righteous Gemstones. Speaking of a show that is not returning, um, what better way to send off this series? This is one of my favorite. I think one of the best comedy series ever written. I mean, anybody that correlates the line of what Danny McBride kind of created in this world and the super mega church of society. Walton Coggins has been brilliant on this show, but the entire cast has never really got. Obviously, I don't think this is a show is ever going to get the flowers that it deserves, quote unquote, awards wise or anything like that. But the performances, the cast this season, it was a nice little farewell to the show and something that it's a show that I cherish and love quite a bit just based off of a lot of my own thoughts about the mega churches and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed Daredevil and Righteous Gemstones as well. Both of them are on my little bit longer list outside the top 10.
All right. 765.
So number 7 for me, a Netflix show, Department Q. It is based on a book series. Matthew Good takes the lead basically as kind of an irascible constable in Scotland, though he is a British guy. Starts out with him and his partner reporting to a crime scene and getting shot. It's very like jarring opening, and then you flash forward a few months, his partner is still trying to recover, not sure he's ever going to be recovered enough to rejoin things. Matthew Good is back physically, mentally, still carrying the wounds of that, and at times, he's still looking into his own case even though he's not supposed to be investigating it, but they try to, because he's such a prickly personality, dump him in this special department where they're looking at cold cases, and so he takes on this cold case. Just a really well done, interesting season, 9 episodes. I breezed through them. Really enjoyed it, hoping that it comes back and we get to see a little bit more. I thought Matthew Good was incredible in that part. Number 6 for me, Andor season 2, and some people probably going to be surprised this isn't up higher. I'm surprised it made the list at all. Honestly, I was not a huge Andor season 1 fan. I thought it was really dry, and through the first 6 episodes, I was kind of still on the struggle bus. But I told myself, if I'm going to have an honest, mid-year top 10, I have to at least finish it and see how I feel. And I'm glad that I did. The last 6 episodes worked for me in really surprising ways. I was really emotionally captivated by some of the end. The production has always been incredibly strong. Tony Gilroy created this, a great creator. They have a great cast, some great performances. I never questioned that, but it got to me in some unique ways, probably a little bit because of what's happening in our actual world. Which is a little bit tough, but I think it is worth checking out. I really enjoyed the closing stretch. And then number 5 for me, another Netflix British one. This one, a self-contained 4-episode series from Stephen Graham and his partner. Stephen Graham stars in it. It's called Adolescence. You're basically following the story of a young boy who's been accused of a crime, and you're seeing it from different perspectives. The 3rd episode, probably the standout for me, with Aaron Doherty, who plays kind of a child therapist. You're really contained in the box as she's interviewing this boy, and it was some striking writing and performances. Stephen Graham, incredible. He has a sequence at the close of episode 2 and really a showcase in the last episode 4, that really deeply moved me. I just thought it was pretty incredible and pretty fascinating in ways I didn't expect. Definitely deeply emotional.
Yeah, some good choices there. I liked Adolescence. I didn't love it as much as everybody else did, but that's why we have different lists. That's why we're picking the movie or the TV shows that we want to pick. Department Q is one. The Department Q. That's one that I really wanted to watch. I watched the pilot episode of that and really enjoyed it. And yeah, it's pretty. I'm excited to be able to sit down and kind of finally finish that one.
Yes, Scott Frank, who has done a lot of different interesting TV and film products. It was the showrunner there.
Yeah, two shows on my list here now. Paradise and Studio go back to back for me. There's not much that I can't really add to the table that Matthew Fox didn't with the Studio. This show, in my opinion, shouldn't be as good as it is, but it is, and I think that it's an insightful look at Hollywood as a collective whole. And my favorite parts of it, I think, is the fact that Seth Rogen gave no fucks really about what he was going to do with this show. He takes it serious, but not too serious in some elements, and that to me, I think, is blends it perfectly. It's crazy to think that the guy that wrote this is, it's Seth Rogen at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, I know him and Evan work on the Goldberg, I think his name is kind of work together on creating the projects. But to me, like, he continues to create magic and I love it for it. You know what I mean? Again, I can't wait to I'd be interested to see what Studio does in season 2. I'm not sure I felt like it really needed a season 2, but obviously as popular as it is, we're starting to see more and more shows that maybe don't need a season 2 or getting a season 2. So in Paradise, it was before that one, but Paradise for me, the unevenness. If you maybe make this 6 episodes instead of, I think it was 8. I think it was 8 episodes. Um, if it might have been, I think it might even be higher on both of our lists. You know what I mean? To me, it didn't connect on every single episode, but it was still really good enough to warrant being the conversation of a top 10 for me, top 15 for Matthew Fox. So, and then coming in at number 5, this one's a crazy one. And you know what? I really don't care about it. I'm going to put Love Island USA on my list. I have been engulfed in this show for 25 episodes now, and everybody that knows that I'm, fully implemented in the world of reality TV. But we often don't give credit to reality TV shows, great reality TV shows, for A, entertainment purposes, B, it's just they're good television. And to me, the amount of entertainment that comes with it, and then of course you look at the production side of things, it's pretty crazy to follow, couples, people, these individuals across the, for so many days, and the way that they shoot it and then edit it and have an episode up within 24 hours is absolutely bonkers. And it airs 6 nights a week out of 7. You know what I mean? We're almost at the 3-quarter stretch here with the show, but to me, I warrant to put it on there just for entertainment value and what it brings to the table. But I also don't think that reality TV gets enough credit for what it does do. All right, Fox, give me your 4, 3, and 2.
So number 4 for me is the Rehearsal season 2. This is the kind of documentary comedy-esque series from Nathan Fielder. You never really know what it's going to be about. This season was about diving into kind of some serious issues in aviation. It had some jaw-dropping, amazing moments. If you've been following us on the Love and Reality podcast, I mentioned it a couple of times while it was ongoing. Some things that I had just never expected to see. And this made for an incredible Sunday night doubleheader with the Righteous Gemstones, which is where it was kind of airing for a while. It was right after White Lotus, and it was like 3 just fascinating, very different shows, very different approaches to like comedy, drama, storytelling. But what Nathan Fielder is doing is exceptional. And I was deeply moved by the final episode. This man actually put in hundreds of hours and became a certified commercial airline pilot for this, capable of flying 747s because he was interested in this topic. Just some amazing things, and it was an amazing experience. I always have appreciated Nathan Fielder. I don't always vibe completely with what they're doing. Like his show with Emma Stone was too much for me after a while, but this just really worked. Number 3 for me, going back to Apple, Severance season 2. I was a huge fan of season 1. 3 years between seasons. I was curious how they were going to carry it off, but dang if they didn't find a way to do it. If you follow This Week at the Movies, Eric and I were talking about it weekly as it was coming on, both of us enjoying it. I found some of the episodes incredibly powerful. The craft that they use in this is exceptional. Woe's Hollow is probably going to remain up among my favorite episodes of the year. It has emotional highs, but the craft and the idea and the shot composition that Ben Stiller and his team put together blows me away. And then number 2 for me, just finished this one last week as well, and that is The Bear season 4. If you follow our site, you know that I posted some thoughts, some non-spoiler thoughts about season 4 and about the process. I feel like all successful shows go through something where it then becomes a little bit of sport to react against them. And, I think all shows that draw you in at some point, we all come to what we're looking for in a show differently. And I'm sure that it did not satisfy some people. It's unclear as we sit here today in early July of 2025, whether this is the end or not. The last episode is called Goodbye. Certainly leaves in a place where I would not be shocked if this is the end, especially since Jeremy Allen White, Io Debris, and Eben Moss-Backrack have become huge stars over the last 4 years that are doing huge things in the world of TV and film. Just a powerful season. So many emotions, so many emotional sequences, and so many beautiful episodes. Just a very satisfying experience to me. If this is the end, I will appreciate it for what it is, and I will miss those June drops that just rock my world.
Yeah, The Bear, I have I think 1 or 2 episodes left. I was trying to watch it before we record it and didn't get an opportunity to do that. But from what I've seen through, I think it's 7 episodes. I think, what is there, 10? Is there 10?
Yeah,
there's 10 episodes. Through 7 episodes right now, I can already see that it's probably gonna be in my top 5. But I didn't want to do it justice by not finishing it, and I didn't want to make my list false by not finishing it either. But yeah, The Bear. There's one scene that I saw in episode, I think it was 7, with Bob Odenkirk and Jeremy Allen White that just absolutely made me want to put my head through a wall full of emotions. And another show, Severance. It's funny that show brings up so much. It's a show that I've wanted to watch. I've watched the first 3 episodes of Severance season 1 so many different times, and I've hated it every single time. So it's just hard for me. But at some point in time, I will put myself in the Severance world. I just don't know when it'll be.
I just feel like not every show is for everyone. And
For sure.
you can recognize beauty and craft without it working for you. You had adults on your list. I recognize that what they were doing very well, but I also watched 2 and knew that was not for me.
Well,
and that's that's the case with some shows. I have started Mad Men like 7 times in my life, and I make it 2 or 3 episodes, and I'm like, this is like watching paint dry. They're doing an excellent job. This is not for me.
Yeah, that's another one of those shows I've always wanted to watch, and somebody always tells me to watch it, and I'm just like, I watch a couple, can't do it. It's crazy. Sons of Anarchy was one of those shows like that for me, but I literally watched the first 3 episodes of Sons of Anarchy 4 different times and said I can't do it. It's one of my brother's favorite shows, and finally he's like, look, just watch the final 2 episodes of season 1 and then go from there. And I was like, all right. And I did. And it's an incredible show. It's a really incredible show, but it's like you have to get past the first season. But yeah, moving on to my list here, 432, a show that I just recently finished as well on Saturday, to be honest with you guys, Squid Game season 3. This show wasn't even on my radar at all, at all. And my daughter watched it and loved it and was like, you have to watch it. So we sat down, we binge watched the first 2 seasons together. It just invested. It's season 3 is very, very good. Ends on a high note. Obviously opens the door to Squid Game US, which is coming later. It's going to start filming later this year. It's an interesting show, obviously, of greed, power, and all those things in between. And I think it touches on those elements really well. And it touches on so many different tones that kind of blows you away, that the writer and the creator, who was only trying to do 1 season of the show, and the show blew up over COVID because there was literally, everybody talks about, oh, well, Netflix didn't push it. No, what happened is everybody was stuck in the house looking for something to watch. And this just so happened to be one of the phenomenons that came out of COVID, and it became so big. And then, of course, they talked him into making a season 2 and season 3. And it's been an incredible ride. I love that this journey is ending here, whether they're doing prequels or spin-offs or whatever. This journey ends here. It's like even with the bear, and if the bear closes that chapter with a goodbye and it leaves those characters in a good place, it's like I'd rather it end when it's on this high instead of forcing us with having more and more seasons of something that we don't need. So very, very excited about that. My number three of the season is what I have called the Ted Lasso for golf, and it's Stick. I watched this show because I was covering her fandom wire, and when I watch the show, sometimes you put a show on in the background. Obviously, we both have jobs. You put it on the background. You're starting to enjoy things, but then there's when you're watching something, you notice, you know, you start watching it, and you're just more and more invested in what's happening. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not often cliche or predictable, but I feel like what Owen Wilson brings to this show and then Timothy Oliphant, he's incredible in the shows. There's so many great performances in the show. I love Stick. I think Stick is incredible. And I think that the performances are great, and I cannot wait to see what they do in season two. You already have an idea of what's going to be season two based off of how season one ends. But for me, I love Stick, and I thought it was incredible. Coming in number two for me is On Call. It's a show that I've continued to think about since I saw it. Matt Fox is the one that literally told me to watch it. He binged it, I remember, in like one sitting. The fact that it's not renewed for a second season really bothers me because it's one of the best well-written cop shows we've seen in a long time. You know what I mean? Just based off pure cops, not FBI, you know what I mean? Like just pure, genuine uh, cops showing up for calls, literally on calls, the name of the damn show. And it's such a captivating show. So many good performances, so much like raw, captivating look at how cops really handle the day to day of modern culture inside the world of being a police officer. You know what I mean? I loved it, and it's sad that it's canceled. I wish somebody would pick it up, honestly, because I feel like it does deserve a second season. Um, but yeah, that's 432. Our number one obviously is the same, Matthew Fox. Um,
Yep.
quite possibly the biggest surprise of the year in
I
some
don't,
elements.
I mean, I don't know that it's a
For me, it
surprise that
was.
I enjoyed it
Well,
because, as somebody who watched, there were at one point in time I had seen and watched ER more years of my life than I had not watched ER in my life because of when it came on and how long it ran.
mhm.
So I was definitely, I felt like this one was aimed at me, but it hit a height of quality and emotional depth that I don't know if I was expecting. And we should just say it's the Pit,
Yeah.
HBO Max, The Pit. Another one that was one of the first shows to fire off literally in 2025. I think we covered it when we did our early pilots episode. It debuted January 9th, but 15 episodes. So it stayed with us, I believe, into the beginning of April when it wrapped up. And it was incredible. I keep a running list of my favorite episodes of the year so that I'm ready to do that at the end of the year. It currently has 4 episodes set in what I consider to be the 20 best episodes of television I've seen this year, including one pretty high up in my top 10 right now. Noah Wiley, I still have him. I'm in agreement with you with Charlie Cox. I have him pretty high on my list of actors, but Noah Wiley, I have number one with a bullet right now as the best performance of the year. But it was an incredibly talented cast, just so many great performances, so many incredible moments. I'm excited that it's coming back and that it's coming back in January. I just don't know what to expect, but I don't think it's going to come out of the number one slot for me in the last 6 months of the year.
It'll be very hard for any show to top this just based on uh, the emotional levity that it just floored you. And a lot of that has to do with Noah Wiley, but also whoever cast this show better win every single Emmy because I feel like from the top all the way down to the bottom to people that you see maybe once an episode, maybe once every other episode, the individuals in this cast all bring a level of care to what they're doing as well. And then if you listen to the behind the scenes element of the show and what they did to make sure that they brought the authenticity of being in an ER the way that they are in this pit, and watching the level of aftermath of looking at COVID in a different way. You know what I mean? And the wear and tear that it brought on the nurses and the doctors and everybody like that. This, to me, it's it's one of the best first seasons of a show we've seen in quite a while. Like, it really is. It's an incredible. If you were to make a list of the best TV shows of the 21st century, of these first 5 years of the 2020s here, it's definitely probably in the conversation, for one season. It's probably in the top five for sure, in my opinion. I can't think of anything right now off the top of my head that's really just knocking me off my socks, but it's definitely in that conversation, just top to bottom, from production quality to writing to stars to the script to the emotional gut punch that it put you through for 15 consecutive weeks. I just felt like every time you knew when you turned the pit on that you might as well have the waterworks ready, because it was ready just to knock you on your socks. So yeah, Pitt's definitely number one. I agree with you 100%. I don't know what it's going to be like to try to get that out of there. So,
well, especially since kind of like what I said, the back half of a calendar year is a little bit like the first half of a calendar year for films. In terms of TV, it's kind of, you get stuff dropped in July and August. It would literally have to stick with you for 12 months to make it into the Emmy consideration window.
Absolutely. Well, that's our top 10 of top 10 TV shows of 2025 so far. Let us know in the comments below what you think, and we'll be back talking movies very soon.